Luke Tom, UFC heavyweight and light heavyweight champion Randy Couture. Randy, thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
So let's start out. Post-fighting life retirement, is it what you'd expected?
I'm busier than I've ever been. It's been really good. You know, it took me some time to kind of get comfortable with the decision I made, and most of that actually occurred before the fight with Lyoto. And since the fight, just haven't really looked back. And you know, obviously had two big movies. Took up 6 months of last year on the road shooting those, and now this year kind of getting a chance to catch my breath a little bit after that, and just ramping up the promotions for Expendables 2, and Hijack hits the stores here the end of July, and Jim's doing great. The guys have been on fire. You know, Campman, Pyle, all the guys have been winning good, close, tough fights. Ryan, everybody. So it's been fun. Been keeping me hopping.
Kenny Florian recently retired, and he said something I thought was kind of interesting. He was worried about retiring because he didn't know how to conceive of himself post-retirement. He had thought of himself, I am a fighter. This is my identity. Did you wrestle with that at all, either in your first retirement and now this one?
I didn't in the first retirement. I was retiring the first time because I just felt like I wasn't myself. I didn't feel like I was competing and training the way I wanted to compete and train. I just didn't feel good about anything. Obviously, completely different set of circumstances at that time. So, you know, the dust settled, clouds cleared, and felt like I still wanted to compete and started to feel good again, and I got back in there. This time, completely different set of circumstances. I've seen myself as a lot of other things besides a fighter certainly over the last course of the 6 or 7 years. So I wear a lot of hats, and so it wasn't so uncomfortable. I didn't have any trouble just kind of taking that hat off and setting it to the side, maybe setting it up on a shelf and, you know, keeping it dusted off, but setting it to the side. And kind of focusing on the other hats, on the other stuff that I have going on.
When you were fighting, how did you conceive of yourself?
Well, I think fighting was first and foremost. And fortunately, I have a great staff here that helps me kind of juggle all the things that are going on. Allowed me during those training camps and during that regular time to cut loose of all that other stuff and just focus on fighting, because that was the #1 priority for me. I was first and foremost a fighter. You know, obviously it had come to a conscious decision to put fighting on the back burner, to retire and to not do it anymore and go out on my own terms, which was what was important to me. So now, you know, I just don't wear that hat anymore. I still look through those eyes. I still understand all that, and it's still there. But there's no burning desire to get back in there. I don't feel an itch, and I don't struggle with the decision I made. I've been pretty comfortable with it.
Do you still think of yourself in athletic terms?
I will always be a wrestler. I will always be it started for me in wrestling. I applied a wrestler's mindset, a wrestler's mentality and physicality to MMA. It worked out great. I think through the course of that transition, I became a mixed martial artist, and I think I will always be that. I will apply that same mindset and mentality to everything that I do. That's just how I'm wired now.
You speak of it almost, and you were in the military too, but you speak of it like, here's what I'm wondering. Wrestling seems to be the more formative experience. Obviously, you did it first. But you still hold on to that wrestler identity. Why didn't the MMA thing, obviously you're hugely successful at it, but why didn't, in terms of how you think of yourself, why didn't MMA stick in the way wrestling stuck, given everything that MMA did for you?
Well, I think it did. I think I've wrestled twice as long as I did MMA. I think it's where I formed this frame of mind and this vision of myself and who I am, and I feel like, you know, certainly back then that's what you did. You were, you know, everybody was out to represent their style, where they came from. That was the best thing, and obviously that didn't hold water. We kind of evolved into this hybrid thing that has become mixed martial arts. I still see myself as, people ask me all the time, you know, yeah, I'm a fighter. Fighting comes in many forms. Wrestling is a form of fighting. It's another combative sport, different rules of engagement, obviously, but still a combative sport in every sense of the word. It's just, that's where my roots are. That's where I came from.
So you mentioned one of the challenges in your post-fighting life. It's a good challenge. You've got many hats to wear. You're busy. Your business is doing quite well. Was there any challenge that you didn't anticipate that you had to encounter and deal with? I don't mean just being busy, because that's something unique to you, right? You got this business, this brand, these opportunities in Hollywood, which are all great. But was there something else that you think other fighters who move on may also have to deal with that maybe you didn't anticipate?
I think, I mean, I haven't had anything that I didn't anticipate. I'd spent a lot of time kind of setting up retirement, setting up, you know, you only have a short window to make the kind of money we are fortunate enough to make in fighting. And it's easy to get caught up in the lifestyle and squander a bunch of that and not really look down the road and realize that you may fight for 5, 6, 7, and I pushed that to 14 years. Probably nobody's going to push it that far for a while.
Right.
But to take care of your money in that time period so that down the road you don't wind up worrying about your finances. Set up your retirement and your trust funds and all the things that you need so that you can really at some point officially retire. Obviously I just refocused on the other businesses and the other things that I have passion for, but you know, I could see where, you know, guys that maybe didn't have that forethought, you know, could end up in a different situation, and it could be an issue.
So you accomplished an unbelievable amount in your athletic career, particularly in fighting. Multiple-time UFC champion in 2 weight classes. It's hard for me to imagine that there was something you didn't accomplish that you wanted to. But since I'm not in your head, tell me, was there anything that you wanted to accomplish that you didn't, even after you accomplished all that, the great heights?
You know, I'm pretty happy with the way things turned out. You know, yeah, I chased the Olympic team for a long time. And you know, I was in the finals of the NCAA's, which is a very small elite group of guys that
Sure.
that wins an NCAA championship, and I failed twice. But I think those formed and made me a certain way, and then you tend to take that and transition into fighting, and I think things turned out the way they were supposed to turn out. So I look back and I don't really have any regrets. I feel like I accomplished things at the times that I needed to accomplish them.
So it's funny, you're telling me something that Daniel Cormier almost told me identically, namely, now he did make the Olympic squad, but obviously he had that really unfortunate weight cutting incident in 2004. But he said if he had gotten the gold medal, he never would have done MMA. Do you share that? Like, I know the Olympic team was your thing. Had you made the Olympic team, do you think you ever would have gotten into MMA?
Yeah, I've said that several times. I think if I'd have made the, you know, I was the #1 guy in the 92 and 96 Olympics, probably the guy that everybody expected to make the team. I had beaten other world champions and world silver medalists and Olympic champions in competition that weren't in that specific venue, managed to come up short in those 2 trials and took second. And I think if I'd have made the team and gone and won my medal, I probably would have been content. I'd probably be sitting here talking to you as a wrestling coach right now instead of a mixed martial artist, or I wouldn't be talking to you at all, really. But you know, again, I think things turned out the way I was still hungry. I still felt like I physically wanted to compete and get in there. This was this brand new sport that was so intriguing and interesting. I think if I'd have been in a different place, I might have been complacent. I might have been, I don't want to work that hard. So it would have been different.